Hey, I'm Ricky,
I'm Nova,
and this is a show that we call Marriaging.
and I don't even really know what this new series is about.
Yeah, well, you do know what it's about. That's the whole series we're doing.
Is that what the series is about?
Should we be a little bit more coordinated?
Okay, yeah, let's coordinate.
So, I am sweating like a pig. I want us to be on the same page of what we're talking about tonight.
Okay, yeah, I am on the same page.
We are?
Yeah.
Well, what are we talking about?
What is the exact name of the series?
I think I married the wrong person. That's the name of the series.
Okay.
I think I get a fan. I'm seriously sweating. Am I dripping?
You always look at me like I'm making a mistake.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why do you... I don't know what we're talking about. We're just making this up. We're figuring this out. You think I'm judging you or something? Is that how you're feeling?
Uh-huh.
Why in the world? What's going on here?
I don't know.
What am I doing? Whatever. What am I doing?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like you want me to say specific words or something.
Did I tell you that?
Kind of.
Just now?
No, yeah, like 5 minutes ago.
What is going on tonight?
Nothing.
How are we not just having fun and being ourselves? I don't understand.
I don't know.
What?
Well, because I did an intro thing and then I did it wrong. And so,
Okay.
I was being playful.
But are you mad at me or something?
I'm not mad at you.
Because you're not acting like yourself. You're acting like you're bothered by me or something.
I'm not bothered by you. Let's go. Do this.
You and me, we got this. Gonna take some practice. Superpower oneness. We are marriaging. Oh, oh.
Wonder Twin Powers activate.
We are marriaging.
Hi. I'm Nova. And his name is Ricky.
We're in a fight. We're just having a fight about this show. That's awesome.
Okay, so tonight we're essentially talking about
A new series. We're starting a new
series.
series.
We're starting a new series.
And the series is entitled, I Think I Married the Wrong Person.
And you were talking with your friend, asking him,
Do you think it's possible that someone could actually marry the wrong person? That is a possibility? Or it's just is that a true statement? Typically when people say that, do you think that's accurate? And this friend of mine said, yeah, I think it's true. I think that sometimes people marry the wrong person. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how I felt about that. I mean, I guess,
Well, because not everybody can always marry the right person or else.
okay, but who's the right person? Because here's what I'm saying. The romantic Hollywood idea is there's one person out there for you, and you have to go out there and find that one person, and it's going to be magical, and then that's your person. That was created specifically for you, and there's no one else for you. That's your soulmate or whatever Hollywood says. I think it's a romantic, cute idea that makes probably good shows.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, but the truth is, if that's a true statement, there's one person for me and one person for you, and then we somehow miss that one person and marry the person who's not for me, the wrong person, then that means everyone from there on out has married the wrong person. Because that person was for somebody else, and then their person was for somebody else.
Here's what I think. I think that people get ahead of themselves and they possibly might marry someone that really isn't a match for their personality. They might have loved this part about that person, and they're totally crazy about them because they are enamored by something specific about that person. But technically, that person probably isn't a great fit personality-wise, family-wise, and it's not necessarily a great fit. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that someone's rushing into it.
I rushed into it. I married the wrong person. I know somebody in my life, very specific, who married somebody, and she felt like this guy was, I don't know how long she actually knew him, but she really felt like, gosh, I married the wrong person.
When did she realize that, though? That's my thing. On the honeymoon, you wake up.
I've known people to have to say that.
Yeah, but see, that seems to me, okay, that seems to me like disconnected with reality, because if you're dating someone and then they ask you to marry them and you say yes, you're saying yes for a specific reason. So how in 24 hours does someone become somebody else? Do you think that that's a reality? Some people, as soon as they walk down the aisle, then they become a different person. Now, I've heard people say that before.
I've heard people say that, but that may be their perception of the person as well. So the issue is, I think that people don't necessarily make the wisest choices. They don't know the person like perhaps they should have. They didn't ever do premarital counseling, or, you know, they may have married a person that wasn't really, they didn't think enough about it. They didn't date them. They didn't know them enough. And so they married somebody that it was not a great choice. But I do believe that you can make that choice, and yet God can still, he can change it all around. And then once you're in that covenant, it's like that person becomes your person. And then that's where you begin to work together and grow.
Okay,
But
so
maybe it wasn't the perfect match for you.
okay, so to
Maybe
be
you
fair,
rushed it.
then
Okay.
I feel like this whole series it's a 3-week series about did I marry the wrong person. I feel like we have to then acknowledge or agree
Okay.
that either that's a true statement or that's fallacy, and you shouldn't say that because that's just wrong. Can we validate that statement? Can we say tonight, you and I agree with people on the other side of that camera that are like, I think I married the wrong person? Do you think that potentially they're right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's
here,
scary to actually say that, though.
okay, so here are all the reasons potentially you could have married the wrong person. They flip a switch and become somebody different on your honeymoon, essentially, or shortly thereafter the wedding. And legitimately, I think that probably it happens, right? Like people
Yeah, like
become
you've been deceived.
okay, so you kind of been duped a bit.
Okay.
Second thing is you didn't take enough time to get to know this person, and now that you're getting to know them after you're married, you don't really like what you get to know. So you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. So third one is you're lonely, like you're so lonely and desperate for a relationship that you start to compromise, make small compromises.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you think of another reason why it would be a valid, probably a true statement for someone who wakes up one morning and goes, oh man, I think I married the wrong person?
I mean, no.
Okay. Here's the whole point of this series, though, from my vantage point, and I
Yeah.
want to hear what your
Yeah.
position is. Okay, so we just agreed with some folks that say, I think I married the wrong person, and it could be one of these 3 or maybe 4 or 5 reasons why. And it probably adds up that, gosh,
Yeah.
what am I doing with this individual? Okay. But you said something a few minutes ago. You said, but once you realize that, you have to like go, okay, but now we're married, so now this becomes the right person. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's talk about that, because what do you do with they're super mean or grumpy and they never were that way before? I didn't know them and now I'm getting to know them and I don't really like what I know. Or the other was, I was so lonely I just married the first thing that came along, lowered my standards, but now I want my standards back. So what do you say to that? Well, you have to just decide this person's your right person.
Yeah.
But
I
then you're probably not going to be like very happy in marriage. Would you agree?
Well, I think that there's a lot of possibility that you can work that out. I really do believe that you can have the honest conversation. If somebody is like incredible when you're dating them and they flip a switch after you're married, you have to be willing to say, hey, this is the way it was. I'm seeing this. Let's talk about it.
Okay, but I'm just telling you right now, if that was me
Okay.
and you came to me and you're like, hey, I think I married the wrong person, and this is the reason why, you told me that, I mean, what? Well, you married the wrong person, then I guess we should just end it. Or like how does that make? Do you say those words, or do you just think to yourself, well, maybe I married the wrong person, but I don't know, I should maybe investigate a little bit more and find.
I don't know. Do you say that out loud?
I don't. Okay, so
That is like a really.
I've
that's
heard that from
tough.
friends of ours, and she said this guy was different. He just kind of flipped the switch and he became different. And I've confronted him on how different he was, and his response is, "I was never different. This is always I'm just being who I am." So I think their next step is probably professional counseling to get a third person in there and wrestle with this a bit. But I've also heard that same person say, I'm just not happy. And my expectation of marriage was that it was just going to be spectacular and I was going to be happy, right?
Well, that's not. I mean, there's happiness, but there's not like 24/7, 365 days a year. We're super happy.
But is there
That's not
someone
the
that you can
point.
find that will just you'll
There
be
is
happy
no
all the
one.
time?
There is no one that you will ever find that you're going to be happy all the time.
Okay,
There
so
just
so
isn't.
so that's my
Okay,
point. So
I understand what you're saying.
so to say I married the wrong person, okay, maybe you married for the wrong motivation, and then that's on you, okay. But you chose this person.
Well, you could say I chose wrong.
Yeah, I chose wrong,
But I chose. I chose.
right? So essentially, the self-discovery. Oh, okay, I think I married the wrong person, okay, and we're validating that could be true, okay, and so so the shift in thinking then becomes what, like, because I just for the record, for all of you that are tuning in, we do not advocate for divorce. We think that we have many friends that have gone through divorce, a couple divorces, and it's painful. The Bible says that God hates divorce, and the reason why God hates divorce is because it's incredibly painful and it's disruptive and it's destructive and it causes all kinds of angst and pressure and all kinds of terrible things that God doesn't rejoice in when his people go through.
Yeah.
Also, it's the two becoming one is a biblical thing, but it's also a biological thing. So these two people, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, get intertwined. And the analogy that I remember we used to tell kids when we were youth pastors is, if you take two pieces of duct tape and you squish them together, and those two pieces of duct tape are now one, to try to rip those apart, you're going to leave all kinds of damage, and that's what divorce does.
Yeah.
So we believe that when you say I do, that it's until death do us part. So so this episode is not meant to encourage you to divorce. Please don't.
And it's not to condemn you if you have gone through a divorce.
Correct. But it's to say right now in your relationship, in your marriage, if you are thinking these words, or maybe you've even said them out loud, I married the wrong person, we want to validate your statement and say you might be right. Right?
Yeah, you may have jumped into marriage before you were ready or before you actually knew the person.
Or they flipped a switch.
Or they just changed.
And they became this very different person. Okay, so here's the question. So we're saying to our listening audience, okay, we agree with you. Maybe you married the wrong person. Okay, and then we're also saying, however, we also believe that now this is the person that you're married to for life. Okay, that sounds really terrifying,
And
frustrating, and bleak, and
sad. Yeah.
So what are we saying tonight?
I think we're saying, you may have made a poor choice. However, there are people who have felt that way, who now have a thriving, living, awesome marriage because they decided that they weren't going to expect the person to become their everything, but they were going to become who they were meant to become and allow the other person to become who they were meant to become.
Okay, so next week,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, so I married the wrong person, and Ricky and Nova are agreeing that I might be right, what do we do? So what's next? And next week, we're going to address that. Okay, so now what do you do? Maybe you're right. You married the wrong person. We're saying stay together. Don't get divorced. You can do this. So next week, we're going to actually come together, all of us, and figure out ways that now you can go from, I don't want to be married to this person, to a thriving, healthy,
Yeah, and it seems like a leap, but
But you can get there.
but you can get there. And I think that's the whole point of the conversation is it's not hopeless. Like you may have married somebody who've gone like, what have I done? But you really, it can become what you dreamed and desired that it could be.
So we have to start though with square one if we're going to do that next week, right?
Yeah.
And what you just said is square one. Okay.
Yeah.
Square one is the first step. If you're saying that, and you could be right, you married the wrong person. Before you figure out what to do with that person, you have to figure out what to do with this person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you do.
So like let's speak to that. What do you do with this person? So these people are right. They married the wrong person. Okay. Next week we're going to address how do you actually thrive in marriage with the understanding that you may have possibly married the wrong person. Okay. So we're going to talk about that next week. This week, what do they do with them?
I think it all comes down to knowing your own identity, though, Ricky. You know,
That's
you
it.
have to know who you are. If you're expecting the person you marry to fulfill anything inside of you, then you're probably asking them to do something they're not even capable of. They're not capable of doing that. So like if you're looking for if you're 50% full and you're like going, well, if I marry you, then I'll be 100% full, then that's the wrong way to look at marriage. Like you have to know who you are. You have to know whose you are and the identity that you have. And your happiness can't be another person filling you up because no one can do that. And then our happiness, our moods change like day to day, moment by moment, depending on stuff that goes on. So how can you even put that on that person?
It's what the Bible talks about when the Lord addresses how he sees us, right?
Yeah.
Like what his perspective of humanity is. I think King David wrote about that probably in a pretty low season of his life, where he in Psalms 139, towards the back end of his reign as king and seeing all his failures with his kids and infidelity and murder, all these gnarly things. Do you know that if the Bible was a movie today, it would be like probably rated R?
Definitely.
So King David says in Psalms 139, you should read it. If you can find a Bible, or look up Psalms, Psalm,
Yes.
Psalms 139. He writes, it's poetic, but he's really reflecting God's heart for his people. And he says, God, you created me in my mother's womb, that you know all my days before they happen. You know when I stand and when I sit, when I lay down. You know my thoughts before they come out of my mouth. And it says that this picture of God creating this human being individually, like as though he actually knows every 7 billion humans, and he knows every hair on their head. In fact, we read that in Matthew, that he literally knows every hair on our head, and he calls you son, he calls you daughter, he's adopted us, right?
Yeah. We are his and he is ours.
So that is where our identity lies, in the one who created us versus what we do and who we're connected with and who we marry and kids and what we do for a living.
Yeah. All of that is after our identity. And if we know who we are, and then we look at that person like they are God's, then God obviously can do something in them too. We need to know who we are and ask God to do the work in us first. So sometimes our perspective changes. Like we think the other person is not what we thought, but maybe because we don't have this all taken care of, and all of a sudden we're looking at that person, we see that person differently than we did. It's really all kinds of things that kind of go on in people's minds after they get married, and like fear is one of those things. They get afraid. And so then fear, it changes your perspective. It doesn't, it's not helpful. Fear actually makes you less smart. I think we talked about that in one of the marriaging, episodes way back when. But I think there's a lot of things going on between, not knowing your identity and then allowing fear to get in there. And, fear is a liar. So
And that's really kind of what we're experiencing even in 2020. Fear is motivating these irrational, perspectives and thoughts and
Yeah.
fighting and quarreling and all sorts of stuff, right?
and it's very divisive. So I think people do getting into. We're not really we are talking about commitment, but people can be fearful of commitment. So once they've made that commitment, that they get fearful too.
Yeah.
That that the person won't measure up, or they're not going to be what they thought, and then they'll look for things that
Right.
aren't helping them see that person like they saw them before.
So I guess mostly tonight we're just offering food for thought and maybe affirmation for people who are really going, huh, I thought that. I wondered if I was crazy or losing.
And then is there hope after that? Okay, it's time for homework.
It's homework time. Hey, tonight, we kind of opened up a can of worms, and
Yeah, this feels like that.
we hope that it actually spurs you on to have conversations with your friends and hopefully with your spouse.
Yeah.
And
You may have had this conversation,
may have.
and it's brought serious angst into your marriage,
Right.
Because you don't know what to do with it.
right, make sure you watch next week because it's going to be really weird if this is the only episode you watch
Yeah.
and you don't see part 2, which is going to be, hey, we have some real practical steps of how you can get out of that space that you're in saying I married the wrong person. And we're even on week 3, we're going to bring a testimony of a couple that have experienced these kind of conversations, right? So just, you got to hang in here with the series, right?
Yeah.
But tonight we do want to kind of poke the bear a bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And get you to, if you've said these things, we need you to hang in here because you're going to get better. God has something for you in this series, okay? So we're asking you for 3 Fridays to follow what we have to say, starting with the homework we're going to give you tonight. And then by the 3rd Friday, we want to know how God has started to change you, right?
Yep.
So what would we like our friends to do as means of something practical that they can physically participate in based on this conversation?
So I think the first part is I think you have to get alone and ask yourself, well, who am I? So I would say that you write a list of ideas that you go, yeah, this is me. And then after you're done that list, look at it, because who we are is it's kind of like subjective, right? But if we know God, then it becomes like a different story. So if you write down your list of like, this is who I am, and then you look at it and you go, how many of these things that I wrote down are performance-based or things I do?
If your descriptors are, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a pastor, I'm a professional, I'm a this, and they're not about the depths of your inner self, the inner man, the inner woman, then we're going to say to you, then you probably don't understand who you are, right?
Yeah.
And so we want you to literally now go and just think and write honestly on paper, this is who I am, and then evaluate, well, what did I put on paper? Or maybe you have nothing. Maybe you just sit with a piece of paper and a pencil and you stare at it.
Yeah, you go, I don't know. Then I would encourage you to read Psalm 139.
Yeah, so the second part of that 2-part homework is once you get a piece of paper and you write down, then we want you to read it, evaluate, and then we want you to read Psalms 139. It's the biggest book in the Bible. So if you have a Bible, physical Bible, you could literally open it up in the middle, and it's probably right there. It's Psalms 139. You're going to read the whole thing.
And see what you can pick out, like who God says who you are. If you're somebody who's like been to church and you've maybe read Psalm 139, I still want to encourage you to do the exercise, because the word also says that it's living, active, and sharper than any double-edged sword. So it means that when you read God's word, the Holy Spirit can enlighten you and show you new things. So do the exercise, because with the exercise comes always something new.
And next week we're going to share a couple more verses about who God says you are. Like he calls you friend and he calls you child, and he says you've been adopted. And he said even when you didn't look for him, he went and found you. And we're going to share some of those things next week too, as we give you real practical steps on now how to get out of this pit that you find yourself in.
Yeah, that pit that it makes you say, I think I married the wrong person.
If you do this homework and if you hang with us for the next couple of weeks, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. And maybe you're watching the show by yourself because you're literally that disconnected with your spouse. Would you just hang in there? Okay, hang in there, and let's do a little bit of work and see if we can potentially see results and change your perspective, change, maybe your spouse's perspective, and start to bring the two of you together, like we say in the show, and the reason why we started the show, to find your oneness superpower, because you're better together than you are apart.
That's good, Ricky. I feel like you just brought that around full circle. It's like, that's exactly what it is. We're changing atmospheres and creating environments in our home after we're married, and we're activating that oneness superpower. And I'm excited to see the stories that come out of this series, because this is kind of a little bit uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable conversation, and I think there are plenty of people who would agree and have, even if they haven't said it, maybe they've thought it. So instead of I think I married the wrong person, then let's navigate on becoming the right person and knowing who you are.
And by the way, if you're basing that statement, I think I married the wrong person, based on the fact that you fight a whole bunch, I'm just going to tell you right now, it has nothing to do with fighting. We got in a fight tonight.
We fought like 7 minutes ago.
About how to do the show to encourage you in your marriage. So
really
and then
funny.
now we're going to go make up. Right? Or we may get in another fight. But the truth is, you can do this. We believe in you. We believe in marriage. We believe in Jesus. And we also believe that Jesus can do something miraculous in your marriage if you will look for him to do that, right?
Yeah, I think that is the ticket right there.
Yeah.
I feel like you're doing a lot of exclamation points tonight, and I'm with you in it. It's like, yes. Yes. We want you to feel hopeful.
Yeah.
This isn't the end, and you didn't make a mistake.
Nope. And we love you guys.
Yeah, we love you.
And we believe in you. Bye, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next week. Make sure you come back next week. Next Friday night. Bye.
We are